The stars were not the same as they had been 3,000 years ago. But then again, no one alive remembered those times. Captain Jake Morrison leaned quietly against the viewport of the exploration vessel Wanderer. Beyond the glass stretched not the familiar clusters of inhabited space, but the endless black of the void between galaxies, a silence so absolute it felt almost holy. For 6 long months, his crew had been charting this region the Galactic Council called dead space. Most days, they found nothing but dust and the faint afterglow of forgotten stars. Then came Lisa Chang's voice. Calm, measured, but with the unmistakable sharpness that meant discovery. Captain, sensors have something strange. Jake crossed the deck to her console, his boots echoing softly against the floor. On her display, a cluster of impossible readings flickered, energy signatures where none should exist. What am I looking at? He asked. Lisa enlarged the scan. A ship. Massive. But the design doesn't match anything in Council archives. It's drifting. No power, no life signs. The image stabilized. The vessel was colossal, 3 times the size of the Wanderer. Its geometry defied familiar engineering. Angles and curves bent into patterns that almost hurt to look at, as if designed by minds that thought differently than any living species. How long has it been out here? Jake murmured. Lisa's voice softened. Thousands of years at least. Maybe longer. The hull alloy isn't reacting to our scans. It's alien, even compared to the aliens we know. For a moment, the bridge was silent except for the soft hum of life support. In 15 years of exploration, Jake had never seen anything like it. Every known civilization catalogued by the Council had its fingerprints recorded, ship designs, histories, technological lineages. But this vessel belonged to none. Bring us alongside, Jake said at last. His voice carried the weight of decision. We're going aboard. Hours later, the Wanderer's shuttle clamped against the dead ship's hull. Jake and his security chief, Pete Anderson, drifted through its corridors in full environmental suits. Emergency lights flickered weakly, powered by systems that had survived longer than entire civilizations. The architecture was alien, but disturbingly familiar, corridors wide enough for beings human-sized, ceilings high enough for breath to echo. Pete touched a wall. Constructions flawless. Systems still intact after millennia. Whoever built this, they didn't just design ships. They designed monuments. They forced open the bridge doors with crude leverage, revealing command stations arranged in unsettling harmony. Jake approached what had to be the captain's chair. Symbols etched into the armrest glowed faintly under his suit's light. Lisa, you seeing this? Her voice crackled back from the Wanderer. Recording. Definitely language. No matches in our database. Another console revealed more, not just symbols, but numbers. Patterns. Equations etched into steel like prayers. There's a computer core somewhere, Jake said. We'll pull what's left. It took another hour, but when they found it, the core was alive. Lights blinked in impossible rhythm, as though the ship had been waiting for them. That's impossible, Pete whispered. It should be dust. Jake connected his scanner. Maybe we woke it up. Back on the Wanderer, Lisa's system strained under the alien data stream. The information came as if from another age, star charts older than civilizations, references to something called Project Guardian, and coordinates embedded deep in the code. Captain, her voice trembled now. These coordinates, they point to a system on the galactic rim. But according to Council charts, that system doesn't exist. Dead space. No stars, no planets. Nothing. Jake and Pete exchanged glances inside their helmets. Jake made the call. Download everything. We're leaving. Rendezvous in 30 minutes. But far away, thousands of light-years across the Council's beating heart on Zentera Prime, Admiral Kexter of the Zephyrin fleet faced a different unease. His city overlooked the spire of the council chambers, where species debated commerce while the edges of the galaxy whispered in fear. Another colony lost, his aide reported. That makes 7 this month. Last transmission spoke of shadows between stars, and a sleeper stirring. The admiral's crest flared with agitation. Pirates. No debris. No distress signals. They simply vanished. Kexter turned to the city beyond his window. His ancestors had told stories, stories of humans. A species gone 3,000 years. A species that vanished with their homeworld, leaving only warnings. Withdrawal. Preparation. Commander, he said slowly, search the archives. Look for Terran activity in those regions. But sir, humanity is extinct. Perhaps, the admiral replied. His voice carried unease older than memory. But my grandfather swore humanity's disappearance was not an end, but a waiting. And in the silence of dead space, aboard a drifting relic of impossible design, Captain Jake Morrison's crew carried with them the first proof that those old stories were true. The coordinates from the alien ship pulled Wanderer into a part of the galaxy that council maps swore was empty. Nothing should have been here. No stars. No planets. No light. But the void had lied. Captain, Lisa Chang's voice quivered. I'm reading a star system ahead. A full system. Yellow sun. Multiple planets. But on every chart we have, this is dead space. Jake leaned forward. On the view screen, a lone star blazed defiantly in the dark, surrounded by worlds that glimmered with atmosphere. It was ordinary. Familiar. And yet, it felt wrong. Run full spectrum analysis, Jake ordered. His voice was calm, but inside, the question echoed, how could this exist unseen for millennia? Their xenobiologist, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, studied her readings with disbelief. Sir, the third planet is alive. Not just inhabited. Alive in a way I can't explain. The surface is giving off signals, as though the world itself is generating technology. As they approached, space itself seemed to ripple. Heat waves shimmered across the void, distorting instruments. Warning lights lit up consoles. Captain, we're being scanned, Pete Anderson reported. His hand hovered near the alarm controls. But the signal's everywhere. It's like the vacuum itself is examining us. The air inside the ship prickled. Lights dimmed, then flared back. For a heartbeat, Jake wondered if this was the end. But Lisa shook her head. Not hostile. Just, thorough. And then the planet appeared. It filled the screen with impossible beauty. Cities grew from the ground like living crystals, pulsing with soft inner light. Forests of translucent trees stretched toward oceans that shimmered with energy patterns, as if currents beneath the waves carried circuits instead of water. My God, Elena whispered. This isn't a civilization on a planet. The planet itself is the civilization. Before Jake could respond, an invisible force caught the Wanderer. The ship's engines fought, but their path was guided gently downward, as though a giant hand had taken hold. Do we resist? Pete asked. Jake shook his head. If they wanted us destroyed, we'd already be atoms. Let's see where they take us. The planet drew them into orbit with careful precision. On the surface, vast landing platforms reconfigured themselves as though alive, reshaping to cradle the human ship. Captain, we're receiving a transmission, Lisa said. Her eyes were wide. Signal is, using the planet's magnetic field. I've never seen anything like it. Translate. Minutes crawled by. Then Lisa's console resolved the message. 2 words. Welcome home. The bridge fell into stunned silence. Home. Jake repeated. His throat felt dry. Lisa, check our DNA. Compare it with the theoretical human genome in the council archives. Her fingers flew. The results flashed. Every crew member, from 6 different worlds, 4 different cultures, carried human markers. They were descendants of Earth. Children of a vanished species that had hidden themselves so well the galaxy believed them extinct. How is this possible? Elena whispered. We aren't even from the same colonies. How could we all be? Before anyone could answer, the main screen lit up. A man appeared, a figure woven from light and memory. His eyes were deep, as if holding centuries of existence. I am Pete Anderson, he said. His voice resonated through the hull. I speak for Earth. Jake's blood ran cold. His own security chief bore the same name. Our Pete Anderson is right here beside me, Jake said carefully. The figure smiled. Names echo through time. The first Pete Anderson was among the volunteers for transformation. His pattern was imprinted into the stars, reborn again and again. You bear the echoes of him, as all of you bear echoes of those who came before. The ship descended. The Wanderer landed upon a platform of living metal. Tendrils reached up to connect, merging ship with world, feeding it power and atmosphere as if welcoming it into a body. The luminous figure of Pete Anderson awaited them. Up close, he was both familiar and impossibly altered. Human, but more. His skin shimmered faintly, like a canvas of starlight. Welcome to Earth, he said. Or rather, to what Earth has become. Elena stepped forward, her scientist's curiosity burning. The energy readings, the integration, this whole planet is alive. What did you do here? Pete's smile softened. Behind it lay a weight of sorrow. 3,000 years ago, humanity faced a choice. A shadow was coming. We called them the Devourers. They weren't pirates. They weren't empires. They were entities born in the void between galaxies. They consume not just matter and life, but the very memory of existence. Worlds they touch are erased, as though they never were. Lisa shivered. How do you fight something like that? Not as individuals, Pete replied. We merged with our world. We became Earth Guardian, a planetary consciousness. Humanity sacrificed itself, not to vanish, but to endure in a form strong enough to shield the galaxy. We ceased being merely human. We became the shield against the void. They walked through crystalline streets where architecture breathed and plants responded to touch with cascades of light. Children of Earth played in gardens that seemed alive with awareness, laughing as luminous leaves danced in response. Are you still human? Elena asked softly. Pete looked at her with eyes full of memory. We are what humanity chose to be. We surrendered individuality, but not our essence. We are still love. Still wonder. Still defiance against impossible odds. Humanity didn't die. We transformed. As he spoke, a tremor rippled through the ground. Buildings pulsed. The air vibrated with energy. Jake stiffened. What was that? Pete's expression darkened. An awakening. Earth Guardian is fully stirring now. The signal will ripple outward. And the children of humanity, scattered across 1,000 worlds, will begin to remember. And across the galaxy, it began. On the mining world of New Montana, drills long considered ordinary hummed with sudden power, revealing hidden cores of light. Machines buried beneath rock awakened as though answering a call older than the colony itself. On the pastoral planet Green Valley, irrigation systems shifted into impossible patterns. Water flowed in geometric designs that could only be seen from orbit, each pulse sending signals into the void. And on Zentera Prime, Admiral Kexter's aides reported chaos. Systems long stable began to hum with strange energy. Outposts reported ancient technologies emerging from the soil. Navigation systems faltered as if the galaxy itself were shifting. Admiral, his aide said with a trembling voice, all energy signatures point toward the rim system the Council swore was empty. Toward Terminus. The admiral's crest stiffened. Assemble the fleet. We are going to see this for ourselves. The galaxy trembled. On worlds scattered across council space, dormant machines awoke. Forgotten symbols appeared in the soil like constellations drawn across continents. Families discovered archives hidden in their blood, memories buried in their very DNA, whispers of a species the galaxy thought extinct. And all of it traced back to one system. One hidden world. One impossible truth: humanity had never died. On the surface of Earth Guardian, Jake Morrison and his crew stood within a chamber of light. The walls were alive, shifting like liquid crystal, forming images from history itself. Pete Anderson, or the entity that wore his name, gestured. You wanted to know why humanity disappeared. Now you must understand what is coming. The walls brightened. A blackness filled the chamber, deeper than shadow. Stars flickered and then vanished as though snuffed out by an unseen hand. From that emptiness, vast shapes moved, not ships, not life, but something older. Something that erased. Elena Rodriguez shuddered. What are they? Pete's voice was quiet. We called them the Devourers. They are not conquerors. They do not build empires. They are hunger given form. They consume matter, memory, time itself. To encounter them is to vanish from existence as though you never lived. Lisa whispered, why didn't the council know? Pete's gaze lingered on her. Because humanity kept the secret. We stood alone, so the galaxy would never face them. We built Earth Guardian to act as a shield, cloaked our existence, and vanished from sight. For 3,000 years, we endured their incursions. But the void stirs again. The chamber shifted, showing new visions. Across council space, colonies now thrummed with hidden structures rising from the ground, defense networks seeded thousands of years ago by human hands. Stations disguised as ruins reactivated, broadcasting beacons of warning. Jake clenched his fists. So all of us, all humanity scattered across the stars, we were never free. We were seeds. Waiting. Pete nodded. Every descendant carries the potential. Every colony was chosen. The time for silence has ended. Elena's eyes filled with unease. You made that choice for all of us. Pete's voice softened, carrying sorrow. Would you rather have been erased? Sometimes survival demands sacrifice greater than death. Meanwhile, far above, Admiral Kexter's fleet dropped out of FTL at the rim system. What they saw defied comprehension. Admiral, his aide whispered. That star shouldn't exist. That planet, the energy readings are beyond scale. On their screens, Earth Guardian glowed with a light that bent the void itself. Vast fields of energy shielded it, while crystalline towers rose into orbit like the spines of a living titan. Then, a voice filled their minds. Not through comms, but directly. We are Earth Guardian. Humanity endured. Leave this system, for what comes cannot be stopped by your fleets. Kexter's crest quivered. For centuries, he had dismissed the old myths. But here, faced with the undeniable presence of humanity reborn, he understood the truth. The galaxy had never been the center of its own fate. Humanity had always been the hidden axis. On the Wanderer, alarms blared. Space rippled at the edge of the system. Jake rushed to the viewport just as reality itself tore open. The Devourers had arrived. They were not ships. They were erasures. Black geometries unfolded against the stars, shapes that devoured light and bent time around them. Every sensor screamed with contradictions. Some crew swore they saw vast creatures, others saw nothing at all. Pete Anderson's voice cut through the chaos. This is what we were made for. Humanity's silence was our weapon. Our transformation, our shield. But we cannot fight alone. You are the bridge. You are the reminder that humanity still breathes as individuals. Jake turned sharply. What do you mean? You will carry our message to the galaxy, Pete said. Earth Guardian will stand against the first wave. But others must awaken. The Council must remember that existence itself is at stake. The first devourer descended. Reality fractured around it. Orbiting moons crumbled into dust, their very histories unraveling as if they had never been born. Jake's crew stared in horror. Elena whispered, "It's not destroying, it's unmaking." Pete placed a hand on the crystalline wall. Light flared. Across the planet, towers pulsed. Energy surged into the void like a heartbeat magnified to stellar scale. Earth Guardian struck. The devourer reeled, not destroyed, but stalled. For the first time in untold eons, it encountered resistance. Pete's face glowed with fierce determination. Now you see. This is why we became more. Why we gave up being only human. To protect everything. To hold the line, even against the impossible. On Zentera Prime, the Council convulsed in panic. Reports flooded in, colonies waking, defenses activating, stars themselves trembling. And through it all, one phrase repeated in every transmission. Humanity has returned. Admiral Kexter stood before the chamber, his voice uncharacteristically reverent. For centuries, we feared the humans because they vanished. But they did not vanish. They chose. And now, whether we fear them or not, they are the only reason we may yet endure. Back on the surface, Jake's crew gathered before Pete one final time. You expect us to carry this? Jake asked. Yes, Pete said. Because humanity's true strength was never only in unity. It was in the courage of individuals who chose to act. You must remind the galaxy of that courage. Of kindness. Of defiance. And of the cost. Elena looked at him. And you? What happens to Earth Guardian? Pete's eyes shone. We hold the line. If we fall, you must awaken the others. Humanity's last gift is not silence. It is resistance. The Wanderer departed as Earth Guardian rose to meet the Devourers. From orbit, Jake watched as the planet itself shifted, continents reformed into weapons, oceans surged with energy, cities unfolded into vast cannons of light. The first battle began. And yet, as they left, Jake could not shake the final words Pete had spoken. The void is endless. We can shield against it, for a time. But what humanity truly gave the galaxy was not protection, it was the will to fight back.